Welcome to Murfreesboro Storyteller. Our program today is originating from the offices of Main Street Murfreesboro in the Heritage Center on College Street. And we have the 4 directors of Main Street to give us some history and some more information and knowledge about what happened and why it happened. Dawn Eaton, the original director; Jane Lee Wise, the second director; Kathleen Herzog, the third director; and our new director, Sarah Callender. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, John.
Dawn, let's start with you and tell us how this came about.
Well, the Main Street program at the state level had put out a request for proposals to add 10 new cities. Ann Davis, who at that time was in the Community Development Office, saw the opportunity, took it to Mayor Jackson at the time, and then Jack Weatherford, and everybody rallied and put together the application. Ann did, I think, all the work, and then they started the interview process once we were awarded, to be a city.
Was there state funding that came into the program to originate it?
As I recall, there was no
funding?
state funding. We had to raise everything locally.
All the money was raised locally
Yes.
then. What was your budget to start out with, you recall?
Oh, John, that has been way
all right.
too long.
Okay,
I
all
have
right.
no idea.
Okay. And what was your main source of funding then?
Well, at the time, the city and the county both participated, so it was primarily city and county funding.
Okay. And then later, other funding has come
Yeah,
about
we
through the
developed
community.
through memberships of, where people, either businesses and or individuals joined as
Jane Lee,
members.
what's your recollections early on from becoming the director?
Well, that was one of the important things about the Main Street program is that it's a public-private partnership, and you have to have both sides in order for it to work. There's been Main Street cities all over the country, and that's how it works. They have a formula for what you do. If you just follow the steps that they give you, then it works, as long as you have people that are willing to give you the money. So it's worked that way.
Kathleen, tell us about your recollections offhand about Main Street.
Money, money, money. Well, I'd pretty much have to say partnership. We have enjoyed a beautiful relationship in Murfreesboro that other communities have not enjoyed. We have watched, Jane Lee and I, and I'm sure Dawn and Sarah will sooner or later, communities that try to make it, get the organization piece going, and they just can't maintain the certification, because you can't just say, oh, I'm going to be a Main Street program. Okay. There are a lot of things that are required, and because we have enjoyed lovely local government support, corporate support, and private people, as well as our downtown business community, we just have a whole lot of, we have a very wide audience. So it's kind of tough to please everybody, but also it's wonderful to know that it's so diverse, because, we have now an extremely vibrant downtown community. So we have, Main Street has come up with ways to bring those two together. The people who live downtown, residential and commercial,
Right.
that enjoy the retail people and bank downtown and all that.
All right. Sarah, tell us about yourself coming into this position.
Well, I have quite a legacy to follow, so these ladies laid the groundwork, and that part has been easy. I've been able to go and meet with, like Kathleen said, partners of Main Street, and people are dedicated in this town to making sure that the Main Street program stays vital. And so that part has been good, and so I appreciate all the work that they put into it. And then, like Kathleen said, just the collaboration with not just the businesses, but the volunteers. So to get the accreditation, like Dawn spoke about, every year we have to reapply, and you have to have done certain things. And without so many of the volunteers that serve on the board and then the committees to help pull off these events that we have downtown that are free to the community, that their whole purpose is just to promote coming downtown, we wouldn't be able to have the Main Street program. So they have made it easy for me, although it's not an easy job.
What is your background coming into the job?
My background was with fundraising and grant writing and development at local nonprofits, Special Kids. And then before that with the Boy Scouts. So I've had lots of experience with working with volunteers and asking for money. So.
That's a very challenging position, I know. You've already mentioned money and raising money. All of you have, I think. Would that be the greatest challenge you had in your beginning, Dawn?
I don't know that it was as much money at that point as it was just getting people to know what we were about. There was a lot of hesitancy. There was excitement, but there were a lot of people that didn't want to change anything.
Yes. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, so I think really probably the biggest thing that we had to overcome was just getting the word out, letting people know what we were doing, why we were doing it, and then convincing those very, very first property owners to do renovations. I will just never forget that. And sometimes they were pretty simple renovations, like just going in and painting some tin that might have been covering some windows, so at least it looked better. But then ultimately, of course, we got to do full renovations, of the building. So the first few years, I was there 10 years, and out of the 10 years, a lot of the time, particularly in the beginning, was spent on design. So everything from facade designs to we did the public improvements during the time that I was there, and that was a real turning point, I think, for downtown, when people could see utilities go underground, and they had already seen the renovations of the buildings. When you can see change, you can get excited about it.
That's right.
When you can't see change, it's harder. And we always dreamed of the day there would be downtown living, which there is today, more downtown restaurants, which there are today, and events. Y'all were talking about events. And at the time, the very first event we did, which was pretty soon under the time that I was there, was an ice cream social. And Ray Seddon, our local astronaut, had actually led that parade. And so I'll never forget, it wasn't anything really big. I don't know if we even had 100 people, but it was pretty exciting at the time. And now, of course, you've got the Jazz Festival and the Saturday morning market and just so many events. So it's really an honor now to always look back and to think I got to be part of that very first couple of years.
Really became a vitalized downtown, or revitalized
It
downtown. And my recollection of downtown growing up was that's where all the merchants were, where all the stores were. And that's where the people did all the shopping and came together, but we didn't have a lot of social events like Main Street has brought.
Right, and there was also, you had the businesses, you had a little bit of retail left downtown. There was still some, and then it kind of went further down, and of course now it's enjoying a resurgence. So it really is, needs to be about all of it. It needs to be about offices and restaurants and retail and living, which is what makes it active and vibrant.
Jane Lee, what are your recollections of your service? How many years were you in the position?
I was here 13 years.
Okay.
And Dawn had done all of the grunt work, as I call it. She was out there in her hard hat and her shovel, and had a lot of people out there with her. And it was those first people that really got things going. When I came, I remember one of the first people I met was Raleigh Holden at Holden's Hardware.
Hardware.
The first thing he said to me is that your job now is to get people downtown on Saturday morning. You could shoot a cannon through this place on Saturday morning, you wouldn't hit anybody. And I thought, oh my goodness, because I had no experience with Main Street, but I soon found out what Main Street was about. But it's really the dedication to a downtown to help people feel like they're coming home. And that's what it's about. We moved here in 1991, and we were fortunate enough to see the progress because we had gone through a lot of small downtowns in the South, just traveling around. And when we first looked at this community, we were amazed at how wonderful it looked. So that was a big impact.
Compared to those other towns you've been in.
Yes, it was really helpful. But then, so my task was to pick up on the rest of the buildings that we could do, the facade designs and all of that, and then to come up with some other ideas of what else we could do to bring people downtown.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough to have some board members who thought up Jazz Fest and who thought up, then we started Friday Night Live, which is now whatever the name is now, but to get people downtown to enjoy it. And then we started working on some of on the economic development and looking at, we expanded the downtown, first of all. It started out, 18 blocks? What was it? Something like that.
I don't remember.
And we made it a lot larger it's over 50 blocks now. And so that was one of the things. And the other thing I remember is our board decided they would do a calling event where they call people all throughout the downtown or throughout the city to find out what their impression of was downtown.
Okay.
And they horrific thing they found out is that people thought that downtown was somewhere out on Old Fort Parkway.
Okay.
And that's when they decided, yes, we do need to bring people downtown.
all right.
So that was what we worked on.
Your recollections, Kathleen? What was your biggest challenge coming
Well,
in?
I think that the biggest thing that happened when I was the director, of course, was this is a dream that everybody had. Jane Lee fought that fight back in the day of keeping the judicial center downtown, because we went through that big spell of everybody wanted to move out. And one of our neighboring communities that was a Main Street community, then it wasn't a Main Street community, then it was, well, their downtown became a ghost town when their whole judicial system moved out by the jail. Well, that was on Jane Lee's watch. So then we, went back to the studies, and all along, every study that the Main Street had gotten the Industrial Development Board to help fund these studies, well, it all said, keep the judicial center, keep them all downtown, but not on the square.
Okay.
So when we were digging in the dirt over there on that cold, horrible day, and in whatever I guess in April, it'd be 4 years ago, it was just a dream come true, because it was something that we had all worked on. We all knew that that's what needed to happen. And then, sure enough, it did. 3 years later, and a huge investment in our downtown, $71 million, is that right? I think so. So that was huge. And then I was telling them earlier, I was recalling a funny story, which we won't talk about. But I had gotten an economic development grant, and that was the kind of springboard to the market. And Jane Lee had worked on it because she had gone to visit her daughter, and I was the new person to Tennessee, and I kept thinking we'd go to these smaller towns and people would have markets downtown. And I'm like, okay, why can't we have that? So for 2 years, people in Kentucky helped, and then, I don't know, all the moon and stars finally lined up in 2010, and we were able to get the market, which really became kind of an economic driver for what Jane Lee said, because it was something for people to do on Saturday, and so it changed the complexion of retail. It changed their hours. One of our restaurants downtown delayed her move out to the country for a year, because Saturday she was just killing it. Like, she had such good business on Saturday, she was going to move back to the country with her restaurant. So she stayed. So, and that's kind of, one of my favorites, because it brings the downtown residential community and the business community together, and you just sort of see everybody. And the other thing I'd say to add to Jane Lee and Dawn's thought, it is an intangible, it's a sense of belonging. Jane Lee said home, but you just really like to go where you know people, and people know your name, and they wrap your presents for free, and all that. It's just such a nice feeling.
Yeah, wonderful fellowship with the Saturday
Yes,
market.
exactly,
That's for sure.
exactly.
Well, Sarah, you've got quite a challenge ahead for you now, and I know you'll do a great job. Anything new on the horizon?
Well, I've got a couple of people on a committee, the Economic Development Committee, who are just very excited about working, the First United Methodist Church and the renovation of that, and the hotel and the condos. I mean, there's just so much in the future, in the next 3 years, that we're looking to have downtown. I mean, it's going to be a completely different looking downtown after that hotel comes in. So just focusing on economic development and helping businesses to come downtown. I get lots of calls asking about where there's vacancies. So people want to be downtown, and that's because of the work that has been put into reminding people that it's important to keep our downtown alive. So just working with the city and the county government as new people come into government positions, and making sure that they remember that we have to take care of our downtown. And we're excited about how Rutherford County is growing and Murfreesboro is growing, and it's great for the economy, but we can't forget about the downtown and putting our dollars here to have a sense of home, to have a place where people remember, it's the heart of Murfreesboro.
The Chamber of Commerce tells us that 24 people a day are coming into Rutherford County. We had 124 ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings during the past year. So that just tells you what's going on economically, particularly.
And 3 of those ribbon cuttings last week were downtown.
That's right.
Which was super exciting to think, already 2 months hasn't gone by in 2020, and we've got 3 new businesses that opened up and chose to partner with the chamber. That was exciting. So.
And one of those was right around the corner from the
Yes, right.
location of Main Street headquarters. Real good. What did you take the most pride in happening while you were director of Main Street? I'll start with Dawn.
I think the public improvements project.
Okay.
When we were able, it made such a significant difference in the look and feel of downtown. I don't know, I know some of you weren't even here then, but when you came up West Main, there was a difference in height of the sidewalk. The sidewalk was here, and the street was 3 to 4 feet below that. And so to all of a sudden make that a step-up curb and no steps and handicap accessible and trees and beautiful planters and benches, it made such a difference. So for me, just being a part of the beginning of it, and then 35 years later to look back. But that specific project, I was pregnant with my one and only child during that. And I'll never forget, I was always on WGNS radio every Friday giving an update for that program. And on Friday, I was at WGNS at Hardee's. And on Monday morning, Monday afternoon, I delivered my baby. So it was just such an exciting time to be a part of that, both from personally and then professionally, just to be a part of that program. Because I was walking around downtown pregnant every single day, making sure that everything was the way that we needed for it to be, and that, keeping property owners happy and business owners and everybody up to date on what was going on. So that was probably one of the most satisfying things for me.
How old is that baby boy now?
He is 31.
Okay, very
He
good.
is 31, almost 30, be 32.
Yeah, congratulations. Okay.
John, one of the things that I think you can hear from all of this, and I think each of us has learned, is that it takes somebody with a real passion to do downtown.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what I found. I had done a lot of things in my life, in different things, and I was in education before I came here. And I kept thinking, where am I ever going to find out what I want to do when I grow up?
Yeah.
And by darn, it just happened here. And you get passionate about something, and I've always believed that you can dream anything into existence if you dream big enough and hard enough. And then you just kind of share that dream with others, and it picks up and goes on. And that's what you did. I think that's what the people did who started Main Street back then, the business owners particularly. And I think each of us has done the same thing with our boards, is we get ideas and we share them, kind of say, what about and what if, and wouldn't it be nice if we could? And, all of a sudden, maybe it takes some time, but then just like that market, it took a long time, but it happened. And so I think that's one of the beauties of Main Street.
Several of you have made references to a board of directors, so you do have a board that guides a vital part of it.
They're great volunteers as well. When Sarah was talking about the block and Jane Lee was talking about something else, I wanted to say that a lot of people don't know that Main Street is kind of behind the scenes on a whole lot of things. And so when it was decided that the bank would move out, the chairman of the board of Main Street at the time and I went to have a little meeting with the current mayor of Murfreesboro. He had not moved yet. He was in his office over there, and talked to him about that. And he said, "Oh, well, I don't know, about the city purchasing that block."
Yes.
And he said, "Well, I don't know. I mean, people may not like that." Well, we didn't want some random person to buy that and tear it down and build a parking lot. So we were involved in every single thing along the way, kind of behind the scenes, as well as the design of the judicial building, because we had a member of the board on the design committee of that building.
Okay, I didn't realize
And then
that.
when people come to town, like Puckett's, which was during my time, we met with them about their building and, had to work with the city about their sign, because they really loved that sign and the sign really wasn't supposed to go there. But because we had I mean, the way it was, but it's gorgeous, isn't it? I mean, so the front of the building is fabulous. But because we had a relationship and people on our board worked for the city and so forth. So all that collaboration and all that really counts. And a lot of times the public, I don't think, understands that even what Main Street is or what Main Street does. I mean, we've kind of fought that battle for 35 years. So, you know, we are, you know, all about the downtown community, and we do believe it is the heart of the community, for
You
sure.
mentioned Puckett's. Us old timers remember that as F.W. Woolworth.
Yes,
location.
and the S.W. Woolworth is still on the front.
Still
yeah.
there, right. What about it, Sarah? Yeah, you're just getting ready to come up with those challenges, I know, and I know you're sensing a lot of them already.
Well, and I'd like to reiterate, like what Kathleen said, a lot of times people don't know that Main Street's behind the scenes. So they know about the Saturday market. They don't even know that it's a Main Street event. The Friday Night Live concerts, they're Main Street sponsored. The Jazz Fest, it's a Main Street event. So those things we put on, that they fall under the promotions category. So I just wanted to say that the mission of Main Street nationally is to maintain, to enhance, and to promote the downtown as the heart of the community. And as all the stories that you've heard, we enhanced it, the beautification of it, the revitalization of it. We promote it through free events, and we enhance, promote, and maintain it. Yeah, we maintain it by keeping those relationships and helping our small business owners and helping them promote themselves. So, I mean, it is a big job. And Murfreesboro is second oldest. It's not the oldest. It's maybe the second or third oldest Main Street program in all of Tennessee. And we have people from other cities, when I meet with other Main Street managers, that ask us how we do it. So they look at Murfreesboro as a success story. So that is really neat. It's a neat legacy.
What's your typical day like?
Oh my goodness.
Or is there a typical day?
You know what? I work on Jazz Fest, Saturday Market, asking people for money, following up with a committee, talking about Christmas. It's crazy. It truly is. It's not just one. I'm used to a job where you just focused on one thing. And of course, I told my husband that he teaches at MTSU, and he was like, well, welcome to the grown-up world. That's what everybody does.
Welcome, huh?
So I was like, I'm not used to that.
What is your budget?
We are a little over $100,000 budget.
Okay.
So, yeah, a majority of that is sponsorships and support from the community. And the city and county, we get grant funding from them. And then, like Dawn said, from the very beginning, we have a membership where individuals can support Main Street. We have a new website that just launched in January, so it's mainstreetmurfreesboro.org. You can go to the old one and it'll redirect you to the new one. And we have social media, Facebook, and we have, there's a Jazz Fest Facebook page, there's a Saturday Market Facebook page, but just go to the Main Street Murfreesboro Facebook page and get information. But we try to keep all of our events up to date and have a calendar for other events that are going on downtown. So we try to help everybody know what's happening downtown.
Did I just read that the date for Main Street for Jazz Fest is being changed?
Yes, it is. Because of the lovely rain that always happens. We're keeping the middle and high school jazz bands in May, May 2nd, with a rain location at Central Magnet. But the professional jazz bands will be moved to in the fall. So, yeah.
Well, what's your happiest recollection, each of you, of the time you spent? Dawn, you were here 10 years, you said? Jane Lee, you
Yes.
were 13. Kathleen, how many years?
Well, I was director 10, but
Director.
I was here about,
Yeah, I had hired her.
Oh, did you
I
really?
did.
I started as a volunteer.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
We went to church together. And she
Okay.
said, you need to come help me.
You know,
And
she-
I did everything she said.
Yes.
Okay,
She moved
everything
here
she said.
from Louisiana. And she came and didn't have anything to do, and I said, oh, I have something for
Oh,
you to
man.
do. And that's really the wonderful part about having volunteers.
John, one thing I wanted to say that I don't know if the general public knows this, but this program originated out of the National Trust for Historic Preservation.
Very good.
And so it was alluded to by Sarah, all the different 4 points, but and it may have, the names have changed, but it was promotion, design, organization, and economic development.
Okay.
And what I loved about the program is, and you alluded to this, Jane Lee, there's a formula. And if you follow the formula, then you can be a successful community. Now, obviously, you have to have buy-in and you have to have volunteer support
absolutely.
and good boards and money and all those things. But there's a very clear formula, and I have taken that with me, not necessarily those exact 4, but with everything I've done since I've left this position,
Okay.
and kind of put that into place, those 4 corners, if you will. And it really all starts out in the first couple of years. I would say in the first 10, we concentrated on organization and design.
Okay.
And we kind of a little bit got into promotion, not much. And we did the first ever economic development plan during my tenure.
Okay.
And then probably the next year, it took another form. And then, so each year you concentrate on something else, or each phase of it. At any given time, you're working on all 4.
I'm sure.
But there's probably a concentration.
Okay.
And so again, it kind of comes back probably to, for me, is just remembering a lot of the design changes and the total. I'm trying to remember. I think in the 10 years I was here, there were give or take 90 to 100 renovations.
Oh, wonderful.
Now, some were small,
Yeah,
and
sure.
some were major. And so that was just really an exciting time, again, because it changed the public perception of downtown. And that was one of the most exciting things for me. And I think the other thing is just the opportunity of the quality of people I got to work with.
sure.
They just don't come any finer than Jack Weatherford, Ann Davis, Bruce Plummer, the original board that stepped up to say, we believe in this and we want to make sure this works. And so that was just a real pleasure on my part to be able to work and learn from them.
In our time remaining, ladies, your last recollections or anything you wanted to add to our discussion?
It's hard to remember all of the things that happened,
Oh, I'm sure.
being, 13 years since I
Oh, yes,
was
I
here.
understand.
But I think one of the things that was really fun is the things we did at Christmas, and having children come in and see Santa Claus and
yes.
all that. Of course, it's grown way beyond what it was when we first started, but that was always a fun thing for us to do. But we did a lot of economic development, and that was something that was really important at that point.
Kathleen, anything to add?
I think the most fun thing for me, since I was here the whole time in this building, is our partnership with the rock star of Murfreesboro, Carol Van West, and our partnership here in this building with
Heritage
MTSU,
Center,
because he insists on having classes here because he wants those preservation people to come downtown, and he'll walk them around the square, and he'll, and when Sarah has her meetings and we had our meetings, Dr. West would take the Main Street directors around and give the tour of the courthouse and give the tour. So, just enjoying that professional partnership and knowing that someone gets it, that preservation piece of basically the whole downtown community. And Carol Van West, the state historian, is our partner here with his classes. And on Jane Lee's watch is when she had the visionaries go raise the money and go get the city to buy into this concept that we needed a place.
Thank you, Kathleen. Sarah, any final thoughts that you have to add?
I appreciate this job, and the most fun thing I think is working with the business owners and the individuals who live downtown, and then those who come downtown for the events. Just everybody thinks that it's their downtown, and it is. Of course, everybody has an opinion about what should be downtown too, but that makes it fun. So my challenge is to make sure that new people learn about downtown, because as Murfreesboro is growing, I still run into people every week who say, yeah, I've never driven downtown. So get off of Broad Street, get off of Memorial, turn
come
and
on
come
downtown.
downtown and support the small business owners and just see, take a challenge and come eat downtown once a month and just meet the business owners.
Ladies, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for what you have meant to this community by being directors of Main Street. Dawn Eaton, Jane Lee Wise, Kathleen Herzog, and Sarah Callender.